Okay, so now that we have made our drop-down navigation for our desktop view, we want to go ahead and we want to make our mobile navigation. To do that is very simple. I'm just going to come back to my W3 Schools tutorial and I'm going to go to the curtain menu, which you can see I've now opened up here. And in here you can see the three different types of curtain menu that they've got available. Sliding in to the right, good. Sliding down from the top, good. Or just appearing on screen without any transition. Now I quite like the transition, I quite like the slide down one, so that's the one I'm going to end up doing. But before I do, what I want to do is I want to make sure I have a look through what's going on in this tutorial to tell me what happens in each case. So for this bit, I've got the create the curtain menu using the HTML. Step 1, add the HTML. We always add our HTML first. So here is the HTML. It tells us we have our overlay, which is our navigation, a div with a class of overlay. Now we could add that class overlay to our own navigation, which I've called mobNav in mine, for my mobile navigation, but I'm actually going to use this whole code kind of verbatim as it is, in order to make it work the same way theirs does. Then we've got underneath that a bit of JavaScript, which is the close button. So this tells us what this bit of code does, so we don't have to guess. Do we need it? Don't we need it? Yes, we do. It's the close button in the navigation menu. We then got the overlay content. So this is the actual content of our overlay. So when one of these pops up, that's our overlay content. We need that. That's the cross I just clicked on there, is the close button. And then finally at the bottom here, you need to include this thing that says span open nav, because that is the button that you click on to open the navigation. So you need the button to close it, button to open it, and then the stuff that's actually inside it. And it really outlines all of that there with notes to tell you what each thing is. Then underneath that, you've got all the CSS that modifies this. We are not going to need all of the CSS, but you can have a look through and decide which bits you do need by reading the notes. Finally, you've got the JavaScript. Now, we haven't done any JavaScript prior to this, so we just need to pick which example we want to use and copy and paste the JavaScript in. And we're going to do that not from here directly. We're going to do it from the try it yourself one. This one is the slide in from side. And basically what it does is it adds a function called open navigation and a function called close navigation, which do these things to, and you'll notice here, name of the div. So these functions affect my nav. So that's a really useful thing to be aware of when you're looking at the JavaScript. Often there will be names of things. That name must appear in your document for this stuff to work. That's why I'm going to keep there myNav. I could just edit the code and change this to mobNav, but it's going to be a little easier for me if I just keep everything simple and the same for what they've made. Okay, so I'm going to try it myself. Opening up the tutorial here. Here's all my code. I have, first of all, my CSS at the top, same place it always is. Then I'm going to scroll right down past it because we want to start the HTML, and I can see in my HTML here what's going on. Now if I wanted to, I could test what happens when I make changes here. So if I change or get rid of this and click run, you'll see it doesn't immediately change anything, but that was the close button we were just talking about. If I click open here, now I can't close my menu. That's no good. So I know I need it just by checking. So I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to press Control Z to undo it. It brings it back. And now I've got, if I run this, the little cross in the top corner here. Now that is not actually an X. It's not the letter X. If you look, there's a little bit of what looks like code here. That is what we call Unicode. And Unicode is used for special characters. Because code actually uses special characters to identify what is and isn't the code, you will need to use special characters. So if you need something like, for example, these 3 lines here, the Unicode for that is just down here. If you need the cross, the Unicode for that is here. And if you want to find any other Unicode, just Google Unicode HTML and you will find a huge list, probably on Wikipedia, just that gives you all of the different special characters and all the Unicode for them, and you can just copy and paste them in wherever you would copy in text, and that will add them in. Now, as I said, I'm going to want some HTML here. I'm going to want all of this. This is my closed navigation with the overlay. So the overlay is listed as class overlay content, and this is my ID tag, which is talked about in my JavaScript, and my class here, overlay, which is talked about in my CSS. I'm going to need all that. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to take it to my Dreamweaver document. I'm just going to paste it in place. So I need to find where it goes. I'm going to put it in my mobile navigation, so just here, because I've got all these tags and these bits of notes in here, that helps me. I'm going to just press enter, make a little bit of space, and then press enter again, paste that in there, and I might even go as far as to add a note between main nav, which is the box that contains all of my navigation bars, and then add a note with my open pointy bracket, exclamation mark, hyphen, hyphen, then the note, which will be mobile navigation, navigation, there we go, bar with curtain menu, curtain, I'll just put curtain like that, and then I'll just put code at the end, actually no, that'll do, and then hyphen, hyphen, close pointy bracket. That gives me a nice bit of a note there, and I can see everything inside that now is to do with my mobile navigation, and I've got a note there just to keep it separate from everything else. So you can do that. It's not the neatest code. You'll find that professional coders don't usually put all these notes in because we want code to be nice and slim and streamlined usually, but for our purposes this is perfectly fine. Now we can see here that the little cross has appeared. That's our Unicode thing there. We've got each of our links. Now, of course, our links are not the same as the ones we've created, so I will need to go back and change these. I will change this one to say home, first of all. I'm going to come in and change the next one to news. Then, of course, the next one is about. And of course drop down. Now I'm not going to put the drop down content in just yet, I'll do that afterwards, but there will be drop down content needs to go in here, which might mean I need to copy some stuff out of my other list, including things that like class drop down button and that sort of stuff. So we'll do that if we need it later on, but for now I'm just going to put in the main menu and make the curtain work before I start worrying about all of the specifics of how it all comes together. So there we go, completely unstyled. Only thing we've got there is the change in the font and the font size, which is set by my document itself. But there's no styles to the actual buttons or anything like that, so I'm going to need to do that. And that is done, of course, all with my CSS. And I go back up and I'm going to find my CSS. So I look through this, I know I don't need all of it. I don't need this thing that says body and then changes my font family. I already have my font family set up. I am going to need anything that refers to the overlay or the overlay content. So any of these things. I'm going to not include anything in the media query because I've already set up my media query, and basically what's going to happen is when we go into the desktop view, the mobile navigation is just going to disappear anyway, so I don't need it to change anyway that they've got set up. So I'm just going to take all of the code from overlay, including the dots to make sure that I've got that class identifier, checking my curly brackets as I go. There's 1, there's 2, there's 1, there's 2, there's 1, there's 2, 1, 2, and that will do. It's all the content I want. Right click, copy into my Dreamweaver document. And then in the CSS, of course, I'm going to need to put this in. Now I'm going to put this again underneath where I did my desktop navigation stuff. Control V, paste it in place. And there you go. It's all in there now. Now you can see that immediately everything seems to have disappeared. That's kind of good because that's what we're going to want our desktop view to look like. But it's also, of course, going to be disappeared in our mobile navigation. And I'm going to need to bring it back. Well, I'm not going to bring it back. I'm actually going to bring back a button to show what I click on in order to bring this stuff down. Now at the moment, all I've put into my HTML code is the stuff for the menu itself, which is here. And that, actually, if we look at the tutorial, is only the stuff inside the overlay. So it's called overlay because it's all the stuff that appears when we click on the button. We haven't actually put in the button yet, so we need to put this button in as well. That is a very simple process of finding it. It's actually this thing here that says span, and it's got open written in there, all this stuff. Now you can very easily, again, find these things by just kind of looking at their tutorial. Well, this is clearly not the button, that's a header. And because it's in this order, top, middle, bottom, it must be a case in the code, top, middle, bottom. So I've got my header, or heading, sorry, there it is. My paragraphs, there they are. So this thing is my button. Again, I'm going to copy and paste the code, right click, copy, back to my Dreamweaver document. Now I want to put this wherever I want my button. Because this thing represents my button, this is part of the reason I wanted to keep my mobile nav box separate. So I'm going to put it inside mobile nav, but before my nav. I'm just going to put it in just here, and there you go. That appears in there like that. Now, I like this icon here. That's good. I don't really want the word open. I might put the word instead menu. Or if you want to keep it as sleek as possible, you could just have the lines. But then remember, you are relying on your user identifying that and being aware of those 3 lines, meaning that there's a drop-down menu comes out of here. So there's my button. Okay, good. The problem is I can't actually get to do anything. If I click on it, it doesn't do anything yet. That's because the thing that actually happens here is when we click on it, it runs a function of open nav, and we haven't put that into our code yet, have we? So I'm going to come back once again, final time to my tutorial, and I'm just going to copy and paste the script. I'm not going to go through the script. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to leave it as is. We are not doing JavaScript, so I'm just right click, copy, making sure I have the tags for start script and end script here included, highlighted, copy and paste it into my Dreamweaver document, and try and paste it in the same place you found it. So that is, in this case, all the way down the bottom here, after my footer. In fact, it can go after my div if I want, and before the body tag. So I'm going to put it just here, and then you could even, again, add yourself a note to tell you later what it is. This is my JavaScript script for curtain. Right, there we go, hyphen, hyphen, close pointy bracket. Then I'm going to paste it in underneath. Now my script is in there. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to leave it well enough alone, as I say. So now I should click on my menu and it should open it up, and there you go. I've got all of these things in here. Once again, if I look at my CSS designer, I can look through any of this code I just added. So anything that's to do with overlay, again, because I put it in sensible order in the CSS, it's popped up down the bottom here. What do I want my background color to be for my overlay? All of those things I can come and I can change any of that stuff in here to mess with it. Okay, I'm not going to do that. What I do want to do though is I want to make my navigation bar work a little bit better, so I'll do that.